coach will not be the one, oh, you poor thing, okay, here's the
Mm.
project. So you can, no, you challenge them, okay, you gotta know. And then what do you do? That's changing the thinking that I'm not no good. I don't have this. I
Yeah.
victim, victim, victim. No,
Mm.
right. So you step up. You teach them to step up. But it's tough love, but it is what it is. You're given the framework. You're given the training, the skills, the tools, the guidance. It's up to you to make something out of it. If you're given all the pieces of the puzzle won't solve itself.
Okay.
You have to
You
put the
still have
pieces
to.
together. Yeah.
Yeah. Emerge Coaches Interview is a series focused on showcasing the expertise, process, and methodology of exceptional coaches or vetted individuals who are experts in various aspects of life. Our mission is to empower all of you who may be struggling in life by demonstrating that help is readily available. We want to serve as a bridge, connecting those in need with skilled coaches who can offer effective strategies and proven techniques for personal growth and transformation. By showcasing the success stories and insight of these exceptional coaches, we aim to convey the message that regardless of the challenges you may face, there are always ways to overcome and emerge stronger. Our guest today is Lorna Bondoc. She has over 28 years of professional work experience in the business process outsourcing, recruitment, consulting, and digital marketing industries. She founded Uvio Digital in 2016, working with companies and various groups in the Philippines and abroad. She's also a Reiki master, cacao ceremony facilitator, and a freelance artist. Lorna finds inspiration in bringing people together to make new and better things happen and is really driven towards continuous learning. I am excited for you to listen to this interview so you can ignite that passion to grow and learn. So let's go ahead and jump in. Thank you so much, Lorna, for joining me today for the Emerge Coaches interview. And really, as I've shared before, our goal here in this interview is to share some methodologies, strategy, and practical, steps that our viewers could actually use to apply in their life. That way they can take a step forward in growing themselves. And I really appreciate you joining us here today. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling rested and just excited overall. Oh, it's a joy to be here with you and sharing, Glads. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lorna. Now, before you've given me three things that we can actually talk about during this interview.
Mm.
Now, before we jump into those specific area, I want you to share it in your end. I want you to be the one to tell us
Yes.
what are some of the ways that you actually enjoy helping other people.
Yeah, actually, that's a very rich question, if I may say. But thank you. I've been doing coaching and training work for maybe 5, 6 years now, and these are the most common areas that I would consider to be of crucial importance because when you conduct training and then
Mhm.
coaching, as people would imagine that it's skills based, period. And the reason why I wanted to have this conversation as well with you is to open up the idea of a shift. It's an overall, it's a personal growth spurt, if
Yeah.
you like to put it that way, because training can be skills based, yes. So once
Mhm.
you check off that list, you can teach people, kids can learn on their own, like how
Mhm.
to code or how to create cartoon characters using AI. Kids can learn how to write, create videos, edit videos, etc., etc.,
Mhm.
create content. That's the technical side, the science behind acquiring new skill sets. But I also would like to look at it from the perspective of a learner. that
Mm.
does not have the level of interest or commitment to change the way they do things, right? So it's almost being a coach is challenging learners and how they perceive themselves and
Mhm.
how they approach change and how they adapt to change. So it's really a mixed bag of acquired skills. So not just the technical side,
Yeah.
how to learn how to blank, fill in the blank, right? But
Mhm.
how sustainable is that learning when they don't have the heart to practice,
Mm.
the commitment to go through the ups and the downs, right? People foresee like if I you earn a certificate,
Mm.
that's it. You're it, right? You're done.
That's
That's
just
not
like one of the first steps.
correct. And that's what I want to shift, right? And
Mhm.
so as a coach, you challenge people and you don't encourage them to rely or to depend on you
Mm.
too much. I really would like to see initiative and how to teach people initiative, right? That's taught to you like growing up.
Mhm.
Take initiative. You don't have to be told what to do, what to think, before you actually do something, right? So you have to set
Exactly.
that. That's why it's a mindset understanding where am I, how
Mhm.
self-aware am I to do this, to
Mhm.
commit to learning. And after I've learned, what? And then, so I asked them that
Mhm.
question. So 5-week training programs, 1 month training programs, it can be life changing if people allow it to change their lives, right? But it can't be the end all be all, right? After the 5-week training, congratulations, you've completed. And then what? And then they go back to their cycle. Oh, I
Yeah.
don't have the opportunity. I don't have the confidence. I don't have this. I don't. So it's very limiting. And so, but when you change the mindset, all of a
Mhm.
sudden you shift from give me, help me, and lift me up to like, I can do this. I may need some help, but I know I can do this. So from dependence to independent
Mhm.
mindset, right? So the dole out mentality. I'm poor. I come from this background. I
Mhm.
don't have a lot of opportunities, and therefore give me. You know,
Yeah.
as a coach, I feel it's a huge responsibility to be able to teach people that it's not what I give you; it's what you do with what you're.
Given. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's like a Pandora's box of
I
topics that we can explore. Glads.
That's really beautiful. I like when you say, the mindset shift. It's not
Mm-mm.
just about telling people what to do to improve their life, but to actually, because if you just give them a step and a guide, like what if people are different, individuals, there are steps that may work for others, but for others, they might. So
Definitely.
it's really about how I like what you said, like, it's not about what I give you, what the step I give you, but it's how you utilize or put that steps in action, apply it for yourself, personalize it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really
Oh,
valuable. I
yes.
love that.
I like what you said about personalize it, right? So each of us, we have individual, unique habits that
Hmm.
we built over time. So what we need to learn may not always be equal to what we need to unlearn.
Exactly.
So it takes a lot of self introspection. Where am I and what habits do I need to change in order for me to get from here to there? So, and it's continuous. Only the person who takes responsibility can build new habits. Like if I say, oh, it's too hard to break this habit, I might just as well not try. Why try? Right? So that's an attitude of defeat, right? So if earlier I
Mm.
was talking about the mindset that I'm X, right? I'm
Mm.
poor, I don't have access, I lack that. And then the habit comes after. So mindset
Yeah.
or the
The
habit.
habits.
Yeah. So if you think that you're this, then you do these. So or you
Exactly.
think in this manner, this way. And so it self manifests. So when you plant seeds unconsciously, you're building towards something, right? So it's also the same analogy I use when you're not mindful of where your time goes each day.
Mm.
There are like sometimes I grant myself a permission to not overly plan my day.
Mm.
Okay. So, but I still have a general overview of how my day is looking like at any given time. I know I can say, okay, I'll dedicate this time to this, and I do that. But after that, I'm not
Yeah.
stringent, right? When you say habits, people are scared stiff that
Mm.
habits are actually like, you're grooming robots.
Yeah. And that
Uh,
doesn't feel good if you're it's like it's not voluntary anymore when
and-
you see it that way, when you look at habit in that
Mhm.
perspective. And I really like when you mention about you start from the mindset and
Mhm.
then the habits, because it's like who you are right now is the cause of that is the kind of mindset that you're having.
Yes.
And then again, the effect is the habits or the lifestyle that you're living. So
Yes.
that's really,
Mhm.
yeah, I love it.
It's making things more intentional, right? For
Mm-hmm.
yourself and for the people that surround you, that you interact with, right? So when there's an intention, there's attention. There's
Right.
no intention, nah, whatever, right? So, and that could provide room for flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Is there direction in the flexibility? So some people mistake that coaching is a, hit and miss kind of job. Yes, we're not in control of people's futures, like what they decide to make of themselves, but it also is a great opportunity for the learner if they
Mm-hmm.
choose to take advantage, right? So a coach is not someone who gives you projects. I attended classes, so she'll give me projects, or she'll give me opportunities, or she'll hire me. I don't have to do anything. No, so it's actually the other way around. You
Mm.
create the opportunities, and then you seek input from
Yeah.
someone that can provide you insights, like if it's the same line of work, right?
Mm.
So in habit formation, it's also helpful to build or surround yourself with people that have different interests.
Yeah.
So you're not confined to just a box of perspectives. So I enjoy especially learning from mentors
Mm.
myself. I also have coaches and mentors that I consult, right? And the most of them I've met and built relationships with, like over time.
Mhm.
And so some of them are retired already.
When you
Yeah. Go
when you
ahead.
say coaches and mentors, does it have to be like an in person, or do you really have to have like a connection or like you know them?
It helps for you to have a direct
Mm-hmm.
interaction, right? So it's different when you have a professional relationship with people whom you consider mentors in the field, right?
Mm.
There are also mentors that teach you about life. And in my case, it crosses like people that I look up to at work usually become really good friends and are like
Mm-hmm.
mentors in life as well because they're seasoned. They
Mm.
they have gone through life and struggles, and I can learn from them, right? But I also want to share the importance of having influencers, not just the
Mm.
social media type influencers, but
Yeah.
I have a large influence on mindfulness coaches, wellness coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I have a strong influence in stoicism, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's books that I read and devour
Mm-hmm.
about it because I resonate with it. A and B, I can apply the principles taught by those people. I may not know them personally, but they influence the way I think and the way I work. So I consider them also influencers more than mentors and coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those that I interact with, like I've attended classes, whether it's online or we've interacted briefly at a conference, you strike a conversation and you can right away know that this person has not just passion, not just knowledge, but they have the sustainable model in their minds, right? So how they share their knowledge. Okay, so it's not I'm expert, you're learner.
Mm-hmm.
It's that. No, it's more conversation. And that's
There's no hierarchy thing.
yes, and that's
Mm.
what I really encourage everyone watching or listening to pay attention to, right? So there's people that you interact with that you're comfortable with and you can ask questions.
Mhm.
No judgment on what you talk about. Observe the conversations that you're having. Conversations you're having don't evolve other than X topic, ask yourself, right?
Mm.
Again, no judgment, but calibrate. Am I growing in these types of conversations? Do I need to expand my circle or fine tune? So there's two ways, no? So sometimes if I feel that my circle is growing too fast and I can't not focus, but I'm too spread, then I know I need to adjust and, go back to the core. Because then that kind of helps me evolve. If I stay in that same plane, same round
Mhm.
of conversations, nothing changes.
Mm.
So I'm a learner who gets challenged by people who ask me questions. Maybe coaches, maybe other friends, colleagues.
That's really nice. It's like flexibility. You can either expand the circle to get to know more people, or, sometimes it can be chaotic as well to be
Mm,
engaging with a lot of people with different perspective. So it's important as well to, now that you have those vast majority of people that you can interact with, then tune it down, narrow it down to who are really the people that I want to have more connection and dive deeper
mm,
with the relationship and the conversation. And also, when I asked the question about mentor and coaches, I love that you have a different term for them. Like for people that you really interact with, that you know personally, you label or you refer to them as mentor and coaches. And for people that you follow online, you read their books, their influencers. Like it actually makes sense, but I never see it that way. I just label everyone as like mentors. But I
yes.
love it. I love that you have like a specific, these
Yeah.
people that I read, the influence the way I think, the way I see perspective. So
Correct.
that's
And I'd like to add to what you said, no? Because you can do a catch all for all of them that help you grow. Okay.
mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with it. But for me, since I plug in my intention of relationship building is intentional, right? So
Mm-hmm.
not that you want to siphon information like one side like a parasite.
Mm-hmm.
No, it has to be interactive. And when I call somebody my mentor or my coach, these are people who I give permission to call me out. They have permission to call me out, like, okay, cut the BS, right? So
Mm-hmm.
cut to the chase and let's get right down to what you want to accomplish here. Why do you feel that way? Like direct questions like that. You can't always have that with influencers who you've read about.
That's true.
They can't talk to you, they can't call you out, they can't
Mm-hmm.
observe you as you interact. Mentors and coaches, on the other hand, are in the same, almost the same circle as you. While there is no hierarchy, you can also see the, I guess, level of experience that they have, the
Mm-hmm.
depth of experience that they have, and the value that they bring to every conversation. They add flavor to it. Like sometimes I teach, but when you're in a circle where all you do is teach and I don't replenish,
Mm.
there's nothing left to give. Right. So
Yes.
I also have to grow in my own path, and then that will help me share with another circle. So it's like this ecosystem of many
Mm.
moving parts, but every part has its role to play in teaching me how to become more effective, I guess, and how
Mhm.
I teach others, right? So yeah.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, I really wanted
That's
to add
where
that. Telling me out.
that's where like the continuous learning goes. It's like,
Yes.
yes, you are coaching, you're helping and mentoring other people, but that doesn't mean that you're already doing that you stop there. You still continue to grow yourself, acquire learning so that you can give more, you can share more.
Mm,
And that's
and
really
yeah, and that's I okay. So this is something I'd like to share with you and our listeners or audience people watching. Continuous learning obviously doesn't stop when you earn a certificate. I keep harping on
Mhm.
that every time because what you know now, what I certify people on, for instance, I've taught people how to build websites from scratch. And once they earn that certificate, they think that they can get 10 million projects like in a month's time, right? So, of course, the answer is no. And the skills that I've taught 5 years ago no longer applies because if you're operating in a tech space, software, they get obsolete faster than we can say fast.
Yeah.
We need to be really conscious of what it is that you want to focus on. Okay, pay
Mhm.
attention to that and then assemble the blocks. I keep illustrating this whenever I teach that, okay, if I teach you social media or content creation or video editing, whatnot, you learn it, but then by the time you put it to use and earn a living out of it, so the software has upgraded and
Mhm.
you will have to stay in tune with the times, right? So it's not, okay, certificate earned, I get project,
Mm.
and they lived happily ever after. Doesn't happen, right? So continuous learning gives them, the incentive, it's like the proverbial carrot and stick, right? So that the carrot moves, you move.
Yeah.
And the carrot is really upgrading skills, upgrading mindset. So if you operate in the world where, okay, the same people you knew from like maybe 10 years ago talked about the same stuff, the same
Mm.
people you talk to now talking about the same stuff,
Yeah.
the carrot doesn't move.
Mhm.
Okay. So, but if you shift your mindset, I can expand my circle. You know what? Actually, I can gain confidence
Mhm.
just by listening and observing others in an event. And you know what? I can make it a habit to build on that. Like every month, I get to attend one or two events where I meet different people, and I'll probably earn the confidence to extend my hand and shake
Okay.
the hand of
Yeah.
somebody else, and then habit forming, make it a routine, and then learn, right? So there's a debrief,
Mm.
and really not a lot of people that attend events do this. So this is part of my continuous learning practice is every time you attend an event, there's a reason for it. And after the event, you get home, you sit down and you debrief, even if it's just with yourself. How did that event go? What went well? Who did I meet? Notes, right? So, what did I learn from one of the speakers, or what did I learn from my seatmate, or whose hand did I shake? What are they about? Wonder if I'll have coffee with them next time. So it's intentional debriefing of what transpired,
Mhm.
because anything that you put down on my proverbial like in a notebook,
Mhm.
it's really going to propel you forward. It's going to give you some action items to work on, and not lead you blind like, okay, that's an event, I collected 5 business cards and that's that,
Yeah. It's
right?
still, yeah, I love that. You just gave me a new idea because when I join event or some gathering, I like to observe as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what's missing that I could apply that I learned now from this conversation is actually write down, take note. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I find this person interesting. I
Mm-hmm.
like, what if I get coffee with that person?
Yeah.
So that event doesn't just stop there when it
Mm-hmm.
ends, but
Mm-hmm.
there's actually like a lasting thing that I could look forward to and I could take action with. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. You can do that even on, the virtual setting. Like for those of us who aren't like joining in-person events, who are not, yes, comfortable, you can join virtual events and do the same thing. I've met so many people in the last 3 years, okay, that I don't think I would have met them if it were not for the lockdowns and the,
Mm-hmm.
I'm so very grateful because I reconnect with them online, and relationships that bud online, and we eventually meet in person, and that all of a sudden becomes a super rich conversation because the pot has been cultivated. Yeah, because 3 years of in online interaction and them sharing their interest, and me same debriefing, okay, this person is interesting, let me put it down,
Mm.
let me follow them, let me see what they're up to. So by the time we meet, I actually know more about them than
Wow.
I would have if it were, an in-person
Yeah.
where I interacted one time. So you can use so many tools. We have access to so many channels right now to really interact mindfully with people and pre-select those that we would like to dedicate time and effort to, right? So I have people on my feed that I keep in one category. Some people graduate to that because what we feed the mind will actually
Mm.
influence the way we think. And I believe that social media super powerful. Access to the internet,
Yeah.
super powerful. But let that be a gateway to uh, richer relationships. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So I I got carried
That's
away.
that's well, thank you so much for sharing that. Like I did something like that, like categorizing the people that I actually met, but it was like a once in a while type of thing, like very intentional. But
Mm,
this time I actually want to try it, like make it as a habit to actually do that, not just like once a year type of thing, because
yeah.
it can be too much. Like
Mhm,
you meet a lot of people in a span of even one day, a week, a
mhm.
month, how much more a year? So I definitely want to,
Yeah.
really take this and take note of it and apply
Yeah.
this. It's exciting. Thank you for sharing this, Lorna. I would like to jump, like, we've talked about your areas of interest and the ways that you help people, which is really powerful. And I think you're able to really share something that our audience would really grab. Even me, I was able to get a lot. So thank you so much. Now I just want to go back to kind of your backstory and personal journey. Like, how did you develop such keen interest in coaching or helping people in, the way you do right now?
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful question. And it goes deep, actually. The answer would be somewhere between and I think I've shared this in the other interview, but there's that big shift that happened three parts of my life. So the first one is in the mid 90s. I think it was 1990, right? So I was in college and working.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a mentor. She used to be our operations manager, and I was an entry level person in the company. And I so distinctly remember the influence this lady had on me because she led with passion. She led with example. She showed up every day excited, beaming with ideas, right? I, as a young professional at the time, she caught my attention. And, somewhere in my mind, I planted a seed. And I told myself one day, you know, I'd lead like her. And her name is Melody.
Mm.
Mellow, she was Mellow Torres Ibao. But she's in the States now, and she has this impact that no one else did, at least at that stage in my life. And as a working student, I appreciate the fact that she didn't look at, your degree or what. I was an undergraduate. And so she told me one thing that really changed the way I looked at continuous learning. She said something like, you only need one person to believe in you to make that shift happen. Everything else is up to you. You
Wow.
don't need 10 million people backing you up, right? Because I remember applying for a promotion. I didn't get it the first time. And then she called me into her office. And then she said, don't let this stop you from pursuing higher goals. So after a few months, I think 6 months, I reapplied and I got promoted. And that's when she said, you only need one person to believe in. And that is usually you, yourself, to get to it. You don't need to convince me, you need to convince yourself. Something like that. So it is, right? So it kind of challenged me. And so by the time when I got promoted, I really was the active kid in the office. Like I would volunteer every opportunity that I have around the office. I volunteered for tech support. I volunteered for the archive section. I volunteered for the library, the resources center. I volunteered for anything except accounting, right? So I've made the rounds or QA. So I made the rounds joyfully and really with that mindset that I learned something from this, whether it's a company politics or
Mm-hmm.
technical skills. I learned to play the role and maybe pick something that I'd like to keep with me and learn something that I wouldn't want to have anything to do with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one person. The second person came maybe 10 years later. Well, this is a client of mine. And he said after a major, what you call this, snafu. Okay, so when you're a newbie, I was new to Google advertising, okay, and I didn't know how campaigns work, and I literally blew away $2,500 in one night. So this was in the early 2000s, 2003, 2004. Really, I was ready to lose my job, but I remember what my previous boss told me: you show up, you take accountability, you believe in yourself. And so I showed up and I told my then client how I messed up. And you
Mhm.
know what he told me is also life changing. He said, "Na, I would rather spend the $2,500 you learning something, how to do something or not to do something, than not
Mm.
having to spend the $2,500 and you not learning anything."
Wow.
And we became really good friends and up to now, right? So
Mhm.
was instrumental because he was, a stakeholder in the outsourcing company that I started in the early 2000s.
Mhm.
So that was trust and mentorship. He led by example. He was calm. He was not freaking out. So I acknowledge. And then the third one was in 2016, my life changing episode. And
Mhm.
so my life changing episode happened right before I turned 40. So really, life began at 40 for me. And so, I was through a very challenging experience. And when you're stripped of everything,
Mhm.
and you're like negative, starting from negative. And a client of mine who knew about my life's episode said something like, "I'm happy that you're out of the woods. Okay. We'll start with something. What do you want to do?" That's a critical question. What now?
What now?
What now? Right? So you're out of the woods. What now? Okay. So that challenged me because he made me create a pitch deck, of this business idea that I had, like starting from negative in
Mhm.
2016, right? And then he shut down ideas like that. But he's in his 70s now, maybe 80s, but he has a keen eye for business. You don't do something just because you can do it, you do it with purpose. And so look at the purpose as something that will not just earn you money, but will also have an impact. So that's why this company, the agency was formed. It's because of that. He shot down so many ideas, and I thought, you know what? Let me do this exactly. So I can shoot down your ideas, because if you don't believe it, you won't do anything about it. But if
Yeah.
you believe in your idea, regardless of how people shoot it down, you'll pick what the reasons are and work on not
Mm.
making it an issue. Right? You will still move ahead. Don't let me stop you, I guess is what he's saying. So there's persistence, right? The logic and the persistence, right? So you're not just persisting without thinking. Logic, and then, I see your point. Let me
Mhm.
adjust that. And so I can move ahead with caution and with the proper planning and all these things. So these are the three critical, I guess, turning points in my life that gave me the appreciation for continuous learning. If I didn't listen, because I didn't have any intention to learn, then I wouldn't have learned anything.
Yeah.
But if what I hear, I turn into, that's a nugget. Let me take that down, take that into consideration, and work on it. Yeah, that becomes a learning experience for me.
Wow. Like, overall, what I actually realized, like, just a simple, even just one conversation that you will have with a person who's in a place where they're ready, they're intentional, and they want to learn, like, it can be life changing.
It is. It depends on how when you zoom in on every conversation, like what we're having now, no? And really, you really nourish, I get, not savor I guess, the moment and the topic and the person you're interacting with, right? So there's insights that already exist, but it will not happen if you don't, it's like a meditative for me
Mm.
conversation. It's like, and that's what adds flavor to my life as a coach, because you lads are a coach at the moment, because I'm learning something, because you're asking questions,
Mm.
right? even if I don't call you coach or we don't have a formal engagement, you're teaching something, etc. So that's how I approach continuous learning. So even if it's a conversation with my sisters or my friends, there always has to be, what's the point to this, right? You don't do things just because. You
Mm-hmm.
may occasionally, but I see myself, I catch myself and, okay, what's the point of this again? Because then I know I can select. I don't, I pre, well, not pre-select, but I'm kind of aware, like when a conversation isn't turning into something well productive and so enriching, I tune out. Like really,
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather go on social media. Yeah. So that's because, yeah, I'd rather read a book.
Yeah, because then you
Have,
can get that
yeah,
ideas flowing in.
yeah.
That's I love it. And I also this part, like, having that intention in listening. And the ideas that come to mind for me when you were sharing your story, like, I just realized I've met a lot of people in my life. And now that I'm in this place where I really love reflecting back on the people that I meet, the kind of conversation that I had, it just reminds me like, oh, I had amazing conversation back then, but I couldn't see the opportunity. I couldn't see like an invitation to actually learn because at that moment, like, I'm not ready. I'm not focused. I don't have that intention. So I guess opportunities are really everywhere. We just
Hmm.
have to be intentional, and then we could see it just right in front of us.
Yes.
Crazy.
And yeah, also another, I'm influenced by a lot of my previous bosses, no?
Mhm.
So one of them, I don't remember exactly what, oh, we were downstairs at the parking lot. And you know how sometimes we think that you learn something when somebody is talking? Yeah. And you're listening,
Yes.
right? And I felt like that was it. And I need to be talking and talking and talking. And this boss of mine said something like, you could learn a lot by not speaking, right?
Yes, I totally agree.
And then like, Lord, shut up. No, just kidding. He meant really, like, he meant well. I knew it. And that's what I shared with you earlier, that you give my mentors permission to call me out when I'm, because I get carried away sometimes. And, my mind is full of ideas or questions. And hold on. Right. It's okay to take a breath here and, just sit. You can sit quietly and learn a lot about a person that way. So that's the other side
Mm.
of coaching for me. Yeah.
Yeah, just listening and trying to understand the person. That is something that I've just been practicing before. This idea of just listen, because by listening you can actually learn a lot. You can
Mhm.
understand them. And when I did my travel in Siargao, I really intentionally applied that. I had coffee with three different people there. And wow, like when you just listen, you can actually, they're saying these words, but you understand deeper the feeling, the emotion behind it. And I feel like if I was not intentionally listening, I
Mhm.
would misinterpret it differently. Like,
Yeah.
wow, the power of listening is really,
Mm.
really amazing.
Mhm.
That's really good.
One of the things that I learned from Stoicism also is that, it's not just holding your tongue, but holding reactions to someone speak. Our mind is racing with answers or
True.
questions as they speak, right? So it's not an open vessel for receiving what is being said.
Mm.
Fully receiving meaning comprehension and, empathy,
Mm.
right? So there's that fine line. You can have a conversation with someone and not have anything to say after, and that's okay. And that's still learning.
Yeah.
Mm.
I used to feel like if I'm listening to someone, I need to come up with a response. And I just realized that's not really listening, because you're listening for to respond. You're listening to say something. Like, you're just waiting for that silent moment so you could actually answer. So there was really no listening in that part. I
Mm.
realize when I start realizing that, I was like, wow, I thought I was such a very good listener because I could stay quiet for a long time. But that quiet moment, I'm not really listening and understanding to what the other person was saying. I was just like, okay, this is a good topic. Let me jump in and share my thoughts as well. So it's kind of like a competition.
Well, yeah, that can get really tiring, no? That's
Mm,
taxing and to the mind. And so not we can be very selective also of the kinds of people that we feel safe to be that way with. When you're reticent and people mistake it for you not being in the mood or you being in a foul mood or whatnot, it's also challenging. So, there's a crowd of people that you can sit with and not have to talk, and it's perfectly fine. Right. And that's when you know that learning is still happening, you know, regardless. So there's that also balance, no? So mindset, continuous learning, and habit formation. When you are in the habit of reacting without the mindfulness, it just happens. It's a habit. It's like clockwork.
yeah, your default is to react.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But if you change the habit and you allow yourself time to absorb, process, and really seek clarity. That's one thing I learned and mind you, the last 3 years. I've attended a lot of classes about, having deeper, more meaningful conversations. It takes effort. They say, a conversation that flows and, it's effortless is the way to go. But sometimes you have, again, it's planting an intention, right? You don't have a conversation just because you can, it's an opportunity to open your mouth and, you know,
Mhm.
talk away. And that's when I knew that conversations that are planted with intention can be the most challenging, but can
Yes.
also be the most rewarding.
Totally agree. That's yeah, I totally agree. Now we're running out of time, so I want to like
Already?
that was it's so quick. Like when you're enjoying the conversation, time just flies by. No, I actually want to understand more how your methodology and process when you are coaching someone. Maybe you can walk us through on how you do that and give us an example of like a success story of someone that you've coached or helped with and where they are in their life right now. Like what was their life like before? And by following, by guiding them through like where they are right now. Even just one person that would be.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. That's a nice question. And it lends teeth to what we're talking about here. I approach things with the end in mind. Okay, I'm a big believer in having an aim before you do action steps, right? So you're more directed or
Mm-hmm.
structured. So, number one, I start with a framework. Okay, so a framework that, I'm a worksheet kind of person, just like I'm a notebook kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I coach people, I'd like to assemble pieces. Okay, self assessment, one. Okay, that's an honest self assessment of where you think you are and where you want to be. Okay, and there's various ways to get there. Like for instance, somebody approaches me saying, my coach, can I attend your sessions? Of course, yeah. Ito yung topics. These are the topics that we will be discussing. And I ask them, self-assessment in all areas would tell you which are to be your priorities. If I'm teaching 5 different classes for digital marketing, for instance, it's a wide scope. You can't expect to be expert in all five after 5 weeks, right? So we map it out together. Like, okay, framework, self assessment in all areas. Pick one or two that you would like to pursue on top of everything else. They pick one and two, and then there's a framework, there's a set discussions, training programs, training tracks for those two areas. And then there's the ancillary. So I plug in, okay, so I teach you one tool or two sets of tools that you can use to progress in these areas. And then I give you examples of other tools similar to what you know to use. So you can automatically expand and build expertise. And then the homework. So the framework, self assessment, training track, and then homework. Okay, so the homework would be something like proof of concept. Like, tell me that, how do you tell me that you've learned to use this tool? Okay, give me an example. If it's build a website, then build a website. If it's, create ad copies, copywriting, then create ad copies. If it's video editing, then create videos. So I ask them to submit, and I critique and then submit. So it's a gradual progress, right? But if they stop at the
Mm.
point where, okay, I've complied with my first submission and that's that, give me project. That's when
Mm.
I coach them. It doesn't work like that. You have to build a portfolio, right, of projects that you work on, even if they're not paid, or even if they're volunteer projects, even if they're just samples. Build something. If you want to say, you want to write a blog, give me samples of your writing. Because how else can I match you with opportunities, right? Or help introduce you to clients who I know have certain demands. So framework includes assessment, the training track of their selected,
Mhm.
focus areas, a set of homework, and then the coaching happens, critiquing,
Mhm.
we submit, apply yourself some more. This looks like you're half asleep when you made this. Yeah. So attention to details. And then I ask them the final. Usually we coach them on how to retool their resumes. So that's also one way to get them to talk about themselves without feeling too self-conscious. Because they can build the skill set from point A to here when they're applying, but then they could not get a job, right? That's also the coaching part, is retooling the resume and helping them gain more confidence in talking about what's on the resume. Some of them don't even know how to build their resume.
Yeah,
And you can't name them because they didn't teach us this in school.
that's
So
true.
you have to coach them and make them tell their stories. So the framework is actually assembled in pieces, and then after a while they get used to talking about their experience using tools, and then I get them to join client calls like an apprentice, or not necessarily an intern but an apprentice. And so when they join conversations with clients, as an observer first, and then I we have a debrief. And then, what did you think about the call? If you were in my position, what would you do? And then they would submit, and then we would have a conversation. And then the same thing, do that
Mhm.
3, 4, 5 times. And then the next thing you know, they'd say, can I join the call and have input? And then that's how it's slow and going. Don't get me wrong,
How
guys.
long does that
That's
take?
usually, I would say, 2 months, 3 months, after the training, which is 5 weeks or
Mm.
6 weeks. Now, if they're not consistent, I'm not about to chase them. That's why I said mindset,
Mhm.
mindset shift. It's take ownership, committed, like effort. Because the coach is not about to treat you as kindergarten pupils, right? Running after you. Hey, hey,
Right.
hey, where's the submission? Hey, we have a client call. No, if you have a client call, you have a client call, put it in your calendar, show up. Nobody will tie you up and draw you in like, okay, it's time for the call. So that's my recipe. If they call it so practical, you know, I don't focus too much on this is how to write a sentence or this is
Mm.
how to open your blog. If you really are into content creation, consume the content. Watch videos, people that can influence you and your style. Same. That's how I apply it to myself, and it works for me. It might work for them. If it doesn't, then they will have to be curious enough to find their way in, because you can't teach everything. Not all of us have the bandwidth to do just
Yeah.
that. And as a coach, that's really what I push people to do. And most of them really do like stop at, I have an interview, the client's so excited, and then it didn't work out, and then that's it. So the challenge is, okay, what now? So you got one no, and then
Yeah.
the
They got
world got picked up.
discouraged.
Right. It's natural, but you
Mhm.
have to do something about it. A coach will not be the one to, oh, you poor thing, okay, here's the
Mm.
project. So you can, no, you challenge them, okay, you gotta know. And then what do? That's changing the thinking that I'm not no good. I don't have this. I die.
Yeah.
Victim, victim, victim. No.
Mm.
Right. So you step up. You teach them to step up. But it's tough love, but it is what it is. You're given the framework, you're given the training, the skills, the tools, the guidance. It's up to you to make something out of it. If you're given all the pieces of the puzzle won't solve itself.
Wait,
You have to
you
put the
still have
pieces
to.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that analogy. That's it's really good. And
Yeah.
was
And
there someone in mind that you actually can think
oh
of
yeah.
who've went through?
So if you look at my website, so the team section there, you'd see different, about 10, 12 people. About 80% of them, one or two or three, they came from this cycle, right? Some of them already have their own practice. They're contributing to me when they have the time. It's okay, right? I'm happy for them because they can directly win clients, they can manage projects, they can. So if I the teammates that I have all came from this model of, collaborative coaching. They attended classes, sent them assignments, guided them, and yada yada. But the rest is really their work, right? So imagine me doing the training coaching, maybe critical 8 weeks, okay? But then the rest is them coming to me asking, hey, Lorna, what do you think about this? I'll submit this by this time. Is that okay? Right? So it's not a classroom setting that, okay, they graduate and now they're. So look through my website. I can name Renil, who's also a coach now, Shakia, who's done amazing work, well, pretty much everybody there lifting my team, right? But they're awesome in their own respects. Not all of them are into multimedia. Some of them video editing, some of them website, some of them content creation. So they each have their specialties, which I'm really happy about. They've found their niche and
Mm,
they're making it work for them.
yeah. I think I really love your like the coaching model that you've actually built because you don't just stop from the training. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, training is done, but yeah, this question of, okay, what's next? Like, how can I apply this? And the kind of homework that you're giving them, it's not like, okay, write me this thing. Like you ask them a question and they can actually take ownership. They can decide what thing that they can work on and then submit it to you and be brave enough to because for me I still struggle with feedback like what do you call that kind of feedback like I know I want the feedback but as soon as I receive it I still feel hurt.
Ah, okay. Well, that's natural to take pride in your work, right? And even I sometimes catch myself feeling that way, glads, because when you take pride in your work and somebody critiques it and gives you the feedback in a not so friendly manner, but that's, I'm not asking anyone to desensitize themselves
Hmm.
to feedback. There's constructive feedback, but it's only constructive if you deem it to be so. If you take every feedback as a slight against you and your person, that's also not healthy, right? So
Exactly.
sometimes you can take feedback for what it is. And at some point also people will rely on you for feedback, right? So it's a closed loop. So
That's true.
when you do give feedback, you're more conscious of what to do and what not to do because of your experience. So it's the same. So it translates into a learning material for you and your learners or people you're coaching when you can empathize
Hmm.
because you've been through it. It's hard to be a coach when you're like disengaged, right? So because they see you as this person who hasn't struggled in their life. It
That's true.
gives a different flavor if you share your struggles as well. Like I have an example. Like if I ask people learners to submit a 750 word article about this topic to exercise their content creation, SEO skills like that. And then they send me something like would give me the impression that okay, it looks like a 12-year-old wrote this or something like that, right? That's immediate. If I'm being honest, I would be raising my eyebrow, giving up. Okay, that's it. There's no hope for this, right? And sometimes a coach will have to see, okay, this person is actually keen on video editing, where, it's just short copies, it's not long form,
Mm.
right? So you have a conversation with the person and say, hey, are you into, video editing, captioning like this? Yeah, actually, I find that more interesting.
Mm.
Okay. And so you shift the assignment. Okay. Because they don't have that. They don't know themselves
Mm-hmm.
enough to say, here's what I'm good at. That's the most difficult thing for them is when you ask them, what do you want to do? What are you good at? In both
Mm.
cases, oftentimes they wouldn't have the direct answer. I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know what I want to do. Okay. So you help them navigate and find, oh, nga naman. So once that clicks, then you see people like those you find on on my page. It's
Mm-hmm.
rare, right? Because these are committed, intentional. You can leave them alone and they'll handle
Able to navigate. Yeah. That's really, yeah, that's really, I love that kind of approach. Like, instead of just telling them that, okay, you suck at this, like, give up, you're curious, like, okay, this person seems like it's not their strength. So let's ask a different question. Let's try to, point down what are they most interested in that they actually like more, and then focus on that area, like
Yeah.
identifying the strength and the weaknesses of the individual and guide them on actually
Right.
finding it out. Because I think for me, I'm still in that process of really, like, I have a lot of things that I want to do, but I don't feel like I'm doing it the best that I
Yeah.
can.
Full
So maybe,
capacity.
yeah, yes.
uh But
So
that's
yeah.
oh, that's also what I remember a friend of mine told me, Lorna, you're really good at presentation skills and communications and sales, right? But operations, not so much. But wait, I'm an operations manager, right? And I had that was one pivotal moment also
Mm,
because you get to self reflect, right? Yeah, you know what? If I ask myself the deep question, what do I enjoy most? It's really interacting with people. It's really connecting opportunities, among people and explaining with passion, right?
mm,
That's what I enjoy doing, right? And when you ask me to, I do project management. That's the cross that we have to carry. We each have that.
yeah,
But if you ask me to go out there and sell and meet people, I do that in a flash. But I know that my work also constitutes dedicating time to project management. While I don't do it 100% of the time because I hire people that can project manage because it's not my strength, right? Why would I hire people who I need to run after deadlines, et cetera, et cetera, right? I need to find people who will manage themselves without me breathing down their
yeah.
necks, right? So that's that to me is a plus if you know
Mm,
also strengths and weakness and you connect with people who complement.
yeah.
It's learning from them and them learning from you. It's like symbiotic.
Exactly. Yeah, now that's when feedback from other people becomes really important. Like, because sometimes you wouldn't notice that, hey, that's true. This is my role, but I don't think I'm actually giving 100% of my full capacity to this role because my heart is not really into this. And it's something that I can apply. This is really helpful for me. This is something I can apply now because we're starting Emerge PH. Like, I'm handling the team, I'm taking care, like everything that has to do with sort of process and like the
Mhm.
project management as well. I have a challenge with that. But when it comes to interacting with the team, really inspiring the team and connecting with the team, that's what I love.
Mm.
So it's nice. Get people in your team who can actually manage themselves would be a
Yeah.
good idea.
Yes, and it all also be eventually beneficial, like for all
Mm-hmm.
concerned, right? Because if that's what they enjoy doing, they're stellar in that respect. You don't have to really do much. It becomes a burden because if it's not your forte and you hire people similar to you, and then that becomes like a burden, right?
Yeah.
But if it's complementary, what they don't like to do, you love doing. What you don't really like to do, they love doing. So
Yeah, that's the perfect balance.
right. And then in between, there's channels, there's
Mm,
communication, there's tools. The same. It's a mindset. It's like you said earlier, no hierarchy
mhm,
really. It's a flat dive.
exactly.
When you work with people you coach, you also look at them as coaches at some point. So if you
Yeah.
can't see them as coaches or people that can teach you something, a thing or two, do you really want to work with them?
Mhm. Exactly. That's a good question to ask.
Well, some people rise above, some people adjust or recalibrate, but you're almost like going upwards side by side. It's not,
Yeah.
skyrocketing here and then everybody you're taking so much
Yeah.
effort lifting them up, but they won't budge.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's really good. Wow, this conversation is really beautiful. Thank you so much, Lorna.
You're welcome.
I just have like two like wrap up question that I
Sure.
want to ask. Like first is I'm curious, like right now you're a coach, you're helping other people, like inspiring them. And I know that you're someone who love to continue grow and learn. So if you were to actually hire a coach, what area of your growth would you seek help with?
It would be, thank you, Gladys. If I were to hire a coach, I would want to work with someone who can help me well, not just envision, right? But there's many ways to scale kasi. So,
Mm-hmm.
but, taking a 7-year-old business to the next level, what's that next level? To me, it's like the 7 years has expanded this way, but is it really the maximum? How can we
Mm-hmm.
get from this point to that point? So, someone that can help me, I guess, fine tune, refine the way I pitch, the way I design growth opportunities. Okay, so that's who I want to work with. But, someone who can ask me critical questions, like point blank numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I'm loosey goosey with numbers, but I rely more intuitively win projects. But they happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like routine structure, like folks that the complement to that,
Mm.
the healthy complement to that, someone who can ask me those direct questions and can work with me through achieving next level for my company. Yeah.
Nice. That would be, you could always set that intention and
Yeah. Even a coach needs a coach.
yeah, exactly. That's true. Well, thank you for sharing that. And here in Emerge, we really want people to, like, as you said, you hone yourself to be the person you are because of the people you meet along the way, your mentors, your coaches, and the influencers, the book that you've read, podcasts that you've listened to. Now, if you were speaking with someone who wants to take ownership of their personal growth journey, what are some of the resources that you could actually share to them so that they can emerge as a better version of themselves?
Wow. That's a lot of books. If there's one, well,
For free.
The Bible is always okay, so I won't count that because that's a
Mm-hmm.
guiding principle. And then I have what's your why? Start with your why, Simon Sinek, and then what else? Atomic Habits, and then continuous learning is actually a self-imposed discipline. You read a book a month or a book a week, I don't care, but read something that's
Mm-hmm.
different from what most people would read. Like if you want to be excellent at something, list down 10 books that you would like to read about that topic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I can't prescribe your reading list for you, but I know for sure that that's been crucial, right? So those two, start with why. Well, the Bible, and then start with why,
Mm-hmm.
and then Atomic Habits, and then there's so many. Like if you talk Brene Brown books, it's all about
Mm.
giving voice and communicating and difficult conversations. There's also the Ryan Holiday books. There's also Jim Collins. So many, right? So depending on
Mm-hmm.
your area of interest, I would say continuous learning happens only if you tell yourself that there's more to learn. But if you're not open to learning, a book would
Exactly.
feel like a chore, and that's not fun. So
Exactly.
yeah,
It's nice when you're learning and you see learning as something fun. Like I love it when I read a book. If I feel this somatic like
yeah,
sensation in my body, I was like, oh, this is the book for me. Like I get excited to read it again. So that's
yeah.
my way of telling, like, do I want to read this book? Is when I
Yeah.
get that feeling.
You can read a chapter a day or a
Yeah.
paragraph a day. Even if it takes you forever to finish a book, read something different because before you know it, you'll have gleaned or transformed into somebody because of that book. And you get to share also with others. Content that you consume is content that you share, and vice versa.
Exactly. And just related to this, what are some of the habits that you've actually applied to yourself that is helping you to be, to be in that continuous learning journey and really help you guide your daily life?
Okay. Well, aside from reading, I'm glad because I share that interest with my sister, with my twin sister, and we get to talk about books that we're reading, what's on
Mm-hmm.
queue, and we get to, build a library together like that. And then okay, so when I'm on vacation mode, I tend to relax also my
Mm-hmm.
my reading because rest the eyes. So, but I write, I journal, right? So that's learning for me because obviously you need to research and back up your writing with facts. So I
Mm-hmm.
get reading done in another mode, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
not a book cover to cover, but it's reading online that is more research.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's still learning for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then what else? Oh, events. Like this one that I'm attending next week is a master class for women entrepreneurs. It's sponsored by the United Nations E-Trade for Women. And I
Mm-hmm.
look forward to learning from people like me who have businesses all over the region. And we can share stories about how they raised funding, how they pitched, where they pitched, and what their products are all about. So it's interacting with people, it's reading, it's writing, it's researching, and really being mindful of where I spend my time online. Even social media can teach you a lot of things, right? If you're paying attention to the right,
Yeah.
well, not saying some things are wrong, but are they aligned with
Yeah.
your growth plans? Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Reading, writing, researching, and interacting with people through events, something like that, and
Mm.
being
Different
mindful.
fields.
Yeah,
Yeah, different
different
fields,
fields.
because we met in certain circles where I hold cacao
Yeah.
ceremony and sorry, excuse me, my
Hmm.
battery. So, there's different circles that you can move around in and you learn a lot from their lines of interest, right? So circles that will teach you confidence through dancing and movement, circles that can teach you to be more introspective and quiet,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, community is really important. That's why here in Emerge, we also have our Scale You community, and we would still want to create more like different community in different aspect as what you said. You can join like flow, dancing, cacao ceremony, and more into the learning community, which is Scale You is all about. All right. Well, I think we could wrap up from there. I really appreciate this conversation, Lorna. I've learned so much that I can take away from this conversation. And I really hope that our viewers would be able to get like at least one or two takeaways they can really apply in their life. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of our listeners will be able to do so. So thank you for having this time. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Thank you, Glads. I wish you all the best on this. Let me know how else I can help. Okay. But I keep replaying the conversations over at our last meetups. I wasn't able to join a lot
Mhm.
already. I missed a lot. But when I'm available, let me know. I'm happy to meet up with you guys again, whether in person, because I know you're out of
No
Suriname.
problem. Well, I
In the
appreciate you,
in town.
Lorna.
Thank you.